Who is the GOAT for the Toronto Raptors?
Hakeem Olajuwon is the best ever player to wear the jersey. Kawhi Leonard brought us a championship. DeMar DeRozan deserves to be in the conversation. Vince Carter put us on the map. But Kyle Lowry is the GOAT Raptor. Reason being, he has kind of the longevity. He has the championship. He has some all-star appearances. And he has decent talent as well. And franchise records as well. So I'm going with Kyle Lowry. Today, we are picking every NBA team's GOAT. This is part 2, where we will pick for all Eastern Conference teams. Here's a quick refresh of our criteria. Number 1. Longevity. Number 2, team success. And number 3, player talent. There's only one rule for this video, which is we must agree on one GOAT per team.
All right, let's start off with a fun one here. The Milwaukee Bucks. Who is the GOAT?
So it comes down to 2 people, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis does have like the one team type thing, you know, the loyalty, whereas Kareem did bounce around a little bit. But I'm gonna go with Kareem, right? When you go with 3 MVPs compared to Giannis' 2, and they both have 1 championship, numbers say it's Kareem.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I went with Giannis, and here's why. I understand it's at this point we're talking about it, but Giannis is still in his prime, right? We don't know if he's gonna win a championship this year, but when I think Milwaukee, I just think Giannis. And the reason is because when you think Kareem, you also gotta throw in the fact that he won multiple MVPs with the Lakers, and he won multiple championships with the Lakers as well. They both have a championship, I get that. Giannis has 2 MVPs, I get that. But when I think what the fans think, obviously right now it's projecting Giannis is going to be finishing out his career with the Milwaukee Bucks. We don't know. Future will tell, right? But for me, Giannis is the GOAT, and he's already gotten it as soon as he got that championship.
For me, is no doubt that Giannis will get it. But at this moment in time, at this day, I think it's Kareem, because you got to factor in some of those points that Kareem got for NBA all-time leading scorer was it with Milwaukee as well. I feel like in this current moment in time, Kareem might have been the better talent as well as a better player, but there's no doubt Giannis will get it. But I just feel like Kareem's just that good of a player. He just needs to be on this list for one of the teams.
So you're saying, okay,
I feel like Milwaukee's the best bet for Kareem to be on a list compared to other teams.
It's a tough one because, like, I guess if you're saying at this moment, you might have to slight edge Kareem. But I feel like when you ask a Milwaukee fan, when you think Milwaukee Bucks, what player comes to the top of your mind? It might be Giannis. That's the only reason why, right? Like when you think of some other franchises, you will think some of their older players before. But it's a tough one. But to your point, Kareem is the all-time player, and having him not on a list of the GOAT seems weird. So I'll give it to you. But we all know we're probably projecting Giannis.
Bro, like I'll tell you right now, in 2 years, it will be Giannis. 2-3 years. Let's get some obvious ones out of the way. The baddest boy from the Bad Boy Pistons was Isaiah Thomas, and he is the clear pick here. He is a 2-time NBA champion and has a finals MVP, but a shout out does go to that 04 Pistons squad. Michael Jordan is the GOAT for the Chicago Bulls, and there is no explanation needed here. Dwayne Wade is the GOAT for the Miami Heat. He is a 3-time NBA champion, has a finals MVP, and spent 17 seasons in Miami. The Orlando Magic inspired us to make this video because before we were arguing between Dwight Howard and Shaq, and due to Dwight's longevity, he is our pick for Orlando Magic's GOAT. The Washington Wizards.
One of the tough ones, you have to go to the Bullet era for this.
You have to.
Right?
You have to.
Shout out John Wall. It's not you, because unfortunately we do value at least 1 ring. Sometimes rings can outpower some people. But I went with Wes Unseld here over Elvin Hayes as well. Simply because he was an MVP. He is the champion as well. Nothing much else to say for me here.
Wes Unseld is an NBA champion and finals MVP. Only title in Washington's Wizards / Bullets history. Also, another thing is his whole career, Wes Unseld, as a player and as a coach, I believe was with Washington Bullets at that time. And 13-year career as a player. He has a longevity factor as well. So I agree with you. Wes Unseld is the GOAT. Let's move on to the Atlanta Hawks.
This was a tough one, but then when I did some research, obviously we're in the younger generation side of things, so that's why we didn't think of him immediately. Shout out Dominique Wilkins, but it's Bob Pettit. Yeah,
I really do want to say Dominique, but the fact that Bob Pettit won titles is just the only reason, right? When I look at GOATs, I also value like team success. That's probably like what I prioritize, and it was Dominique, like, you know, hands down for me, no matter what. But then when I saw Bob Pettit, yes, it was like a St. Louis Hawks or something. Yeah, I think it's Bob Pettit as well. I agree with you.
At the end of the day, you also got to look at their longevity, what they meant to the team, as well as at least a championship.
Yeah,
right. Like championships do get skewed, like I mentioned earlier, but at the end of the day, championship matters.
And I feel like another thing is like it's a different story if like your only 2 titles or 1 title are from Bob Pettit, right? Like how like Wes Unseld has the only 2 Wizards titles. Yes. So I feel like that's a big factor.
So speaking of that, let's go to the New York Knicks, because is it Patrick Ewing's fault he was in the era of Michael Jordan, and then when Michael Jordan retired briefly, it was Hakeem Olajuwon? But I ultimately went with Clyde Walt Frazier, because like you said, he was the reason why you have the multiple championships. championships on your roster, on your franchise history.
Like we mentioned before, it's not Patrick Ewing's fault. It's also not Dominic Wilkins' fault.
Yeah.
As well. You guys, they're both in the same conversation.
Yeah.
But it is Clyde Walt-Frazier, 2 NBA titles for the Knicks. He's got them both. So Walt-Frazier got the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas Ewing, yes, it was a tougher era for him. Same with Wilkins for the Hawks, but they just couldn't emulate that success.
Ewing would have gotten it for me if he had won that chip, the one that Duncan ended up winning.
If he won one, yeah.
Yeah, I would have probably considered it.
Same with Wilkins.
Well.
If Wilkins won one,
I would have considered that.
I think if Wilkins even won an MVP, I would have given it to Wilkins.
Yeah.
Let's pick up the pace. The Cleveland Cavaliers GOAT is LeBron James. No debates here. The Charlotte Hornets did not have many good players, but their GOAT is Kemba Walker, who led them to a couple of playoff appearances and was a 4-time All-Star. Shout out to Paul George, but the Pacers GOAT has to be Reggie Miller, who spent his entire career in Indiana.
Brooklyn/New Jersey Nets. Here's the thing, the ABA does not count. So that's why Dr. J. Julius Erving is not it for me, because we're looking at the NBA GOAT of this franchise. So for that, it's another tough one. Brook Lopez is their leading point getter, I believe, but I went with Jason Kidd. He was the guy, the point guard of that era. Took him to 2 straight finals, but ultimately, again, you lost to Shaq and Kobe, and you lost to Duncan and the Spurs.
Right, like Spurs and Lakers at that time were the teams, so you can't fault Kidd. And also another thing is, I think before Kidd, the Nets had like a terrible record. I don't know what it was exactly, but I know it was really garbage. Kidd comes in, takes them to 2 straight. I think it was 2 straight, right?
Yeah.
NBA Finals, and that's an incredible run by Kidd. Yeah, Jason Kidd is the Nets GOAT. Who is the GOAT for the Philadelphia 76ers?
Out of all 30 teams, because we already dropped the Western Conference one as well separately. This was the hardest one where it took me like 20 minutes to sit and think. Ultimately, there's 5 guys. Charles Barkley, probably bottom of that list. Moses Malone, unfortunately didn't have the longevity of it. I know he had the finals MVP for them. Wilt Chamberlain, again, the longevity wasn't there for the 76ers side of things because the Philadelphia Warriors counts as the Golden State Warriors. And it was Allen Iverson. Came down to Allen Iverson and Dr. J. Julius Erving. I went with Julius Erving. All his NBA years were with him, with the team. 11 All-Stars with the same team. He got an MVP. He led them to he's one of the leaders that helped them get a championship along with Moses Malone. I feel like because of, again, we're valuing the championship as if they did not win it, it probably would have been Allen Iverson if Allen Iverson won that 01 championship.
I went with Allen Iverson.
Okay, so
he was an MVP. Allen Iverson had a finals run where Dikembe Mutombo was on his last legs and he had no one else. I don't know anyone on that team. Allen Iverson is not at fault for losing to a Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Okay, if that's your argument, Patrick Ewing, right? So,
but Dr. J had Moses Malone.
I get that.
It's a different story. Ewing didn't have anyone. Ewing still had an excuse. The difference is Erving has 1 for the Sixers. Walt Frazier had 2. Those numbers do matter.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
if Erving won the Finals MVP instead of Moses Malone, I would have went with Dr. J.
Yeah,
but I'm going with Allen Iverson. The reason being because I think he's just the more talented player.
But if we're valuing the championship, the only championship which Allen Iverson did not provide.
Erving is not the only
Julius
champion.
Erving.
So the Chamberlain ones are.
Oh yeah, sorry, Chamberlain won
exactly.
one as well.
So
I get that, but
it's not the only one.
But Julius Erving spent 11 years, and those that were competitive all those years, and he was the guy. 11 All-Star appearances with them, and again, if you're talking about NBA, it's Julius Erving, 76ers synonymous. I understand what Allen Iverson did was amazing. Allen Iverson also went on to other teams as well. The Detroit Pistons near the end of his career. I know he returned back to Philadelphia, but Denver Nuggets was the big one that he joined after. But yeah, for me, it's Dr. J because of that championship, because he also has an MVP along with that championship, and 11 straight All-Star appearances with the 76ers.
Does Dr. J have an MVP?
Yes.
Because I didn't see that. Iverson still has the same longevity, right?
Yeah.
He spent 10 years there. Dr. J spent 11. I'm just saying, like, what Iverson brought to the table, I don't know if it's just me being the more younger side as well, was just incredible. Like, nobody had handles like Iverson.
No, and I get that.
Like, Iverson at that time probably had one of the greatest seasons ever, because who carries that team to NBA Finals? Who carries that team to a playoff spot?
That, but at the end of the day, who got the chip?
Moses Malone and Julius Erving.
So who's gonna get remembered more? Unfortunately, that's the case.
I think
when it comes to championships.
Yeah, you remember championships more, but Allen Iverson had the better stories.
Oh, and I get that, but did it come with the jewelry? No. So that's why it has to be Julius Erving. I would have given it to Moses Malone if he played more years. It was easy Moses Malone for me when I was doing this in the top of my head. But it has to be Julius Erving because all his NBA years were mainly with the 76ers. All 11 times he was an All-Star. He was a big factor of why they won the championship. Maybe you gotta also remember, it's a Finals MVP. We weren't maybe at that era to know how the rest of the playoffs went. But from what I'm hearing and what I've read, it's Julius Erving.
Yeah, I mean,
If we're putting the criteria as a championship matters amongst these GOATs, if that was the case, I would have went with Patrick Ewing. For sure, because look, the eras were also very different, and he went up against Jordan a bunch of times, and then obviously ended up losing against Duncan. So for that, it has to be Julius Erving for me.
yeah, it's fair. Let's
gotta come to a
be
decision.
fair. We gotta come to a decision. Iverson had the better playoff run.
Sure.
He did. Iverson had the better story. Iverson had tougher opponents. Iverson did not have a partner in crime at all.
If that's our criteria, that puts the franchise on the map. It's Julius Erving's name is gonna be etched. If he did not win the championship, it was easily Allen Iverson. You have to, like, at the end of the day, championships are synonymous, and that's why people think Jordan's the GOAT because he has 6 to LeBron's 4. Right?
Okay, yeah. So
at the end of the day, the championship does matter.
You guys comment down below. I'm gonna give in. I'll give you a Julius Erving take because championships do matter. But comment down below, Allen Iverson or Julius Erving. We'll put up a poll as well.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely one of the closest ones we had.
But we got to end it off with the greatest Eastern Conference franchise, which is the Boston Celtics. And yes, it was a little tough, but I think there's an easy answer. It is Bill Russell. When you think of championships, you think of what he's done for the game of basketball in general. 11 championships, what he has done, one of the first player coaches. It's Bill Russell, put the game on the map for many other different races around the league. You want to give a shout out to Larry Bird, also Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, Paul Pierce, right? Kevin Garnett for a little stint there. Maybe currently Jason Tatum eventually could do it, but I don't think anyone will touch Bill Russell. And there's a reason why he's sometimes labeled as the GOAT of all of NBA at times, especially with the older generation.
My pick was Larry Bird.
Oh, okay. I thought it was.
It wasn't that easy, right? Yes, 11 NBA titles, very impressive. Not taking anything away from that. Larry Bird has 3 NBA titles. Yes, he has 2 times MVP champion. I mean, 2 Finals MVP, 3 times regular season MVP.
Yeah.
When you look at, because at the end of the day, like, yes, we had titles in our criteria, but we also have player talent, right?
Listen.
And that's why I was really heavy on Allen Iverson, and that's why I'm gonna be really heavy on Larry Bird as well. Because as a player, Larry Bird is the complete package. He could play defense, he could shoot the 3 ball, he could hit the 2. Whereas Bill Russell at the end of the day was a center who rim protects and blocked and rebounded.
I get it. But here's my thing, right? I get it. I agree with you. I was thinking Larry Bird, leaning heavy Larry Bird. But when you look at what a player has done for not just the franchise, but for the game of basketball, the number 6 is retired because of Bill Russell around the NBA. So for that reason, as well as the impact outside of the court he had growing up, right? Growing up in the NBA, going in, like, as the NBA went on, right? He was one of those faces. You see that iconic picture with him and Kareem, right? Muhammad Ali. It's Bill Russell. And because of that factor as well, he's considered the GOAT. And he's the big reason why, obviously, he had Havlicek, Cousy, and all these guys in the franchise in general, got him a lot of those rings. I'm not giving him the GOAT because of the 11 rings. I'm gonna make that clear. I'm not giving it because he has 11 rings. There happened to be, it's synonymous. There's a Bill Russell Finals MVP. It's because of him. What he has done for the overall game of basketball, including the Boston Celtics, you have to give him that GOAT status for the franchise.
The thing is this, right? Larry Bird, right? Whereas we questioned Bill Russell, was he that guy? Because there was a Bob Cousy, there was a Havlicek. There was no questioning that Larry Bird was that lead guy on that team. When you think about a revolutionary player, Larry Bird isn't on top of that conversation, because where was the 3 ball before Larry Bird came in? I don't think it existed. I don't think players knew there was a 3-point line.
Yeah.
Larry Bird, obviously, when you think 3 points, you think Curry.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, there's no Reggie Miller, there's no Curry game style if Larry Bird did not exist.
But again,
he had a revolution. You're saying the impact that Bill Russell had? Larry Bird revolutionized the game as well.
But Bill Russell did it first. The way he revolutionized the game for everybody in the basketball community.
He did it first because he's been there first.
Exactly, but like the way he's done it, right? Like I get it, like on the court, sure, but like when you think of a GOAT, like I said, you have to look at some of the off-court impact, what they meant to the franchise. In this case, what they meant to the whole game of basketball as well. Bill Russell's that guy. And it doesn't help if he only had 1 chip, sure, I get it. But on top of that, he has 11. Everybody thinks that there's a reason why they put Bill Russell in the top 5 greatest of all time. Many people put him that because of the 11 as well, ahead of Larry Bird, to be exact. And if they're both on the same franchise, it's not like a Kobe Magic for me, where it was like they were neck and neck. This was also slightly neck and neck, but because of that leeway, Bill Russell also dominated Wilt Chamberlain. To many, is like the greatest athlete probably NBA had because of the 100 points and all that. He dominated him. So for that reason, plus what he has done, I can't put, not like how you said you cannot put Kareem on this. and Kareem was in that picture, I cannot take away what Bill Russell has done.
You got me there.
Yeah, like Bill Russell revolutionized the game of basketball as a whole from the human rights perspective.
I'll get the same respect. If I said that for Kareem, I have to say that for Bill Russell as well. So I'll, again, comment down below, right? Another one that we took time to agree on. Larry Bird or Bill Russell, what do you value more, the 11 chips or Larry Bird's talent, right? So comment that down below, but our goal will be Bill Russell.
Yeah, in this case, it's a tough one. Like the East was way tougher than the West.
These are all the GOATs for the Eastern Conference teams. Comment down below if there's anything you would change, and check out the Western Conference GOATs video on screen. We will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.